hiker, especially since I hike alone a lot. And in the past, I've always hiked with my dog. So this case of, and I have not heard it very much, unfortunately, but this case of, it's the murder of Meredith Emerson. And I remember seeing it. I read the book those days in January, and then, but I also saw this years ago with my mom when she was still alive, on ID or Forensic Files or something like that. But it was a crazy case, and I didn't even know when I started the book these days in January that it was the same case, because this case haunts me because I am an avid hiker. Case of Meredith Emerson. She was a beautiful girl. I think this happened in 2008. This man, Gary Hilton, arrives at Blood Mountain and approaches the trail parking lot. So this man, Gary Hilton, for some reason, he decides he's going to kind of park at this trail for a while. Nobody really knows what his main reasoning is right now. So Meredith goes out with her friends, celebrates, 2008. So January 1st, 2008, at 1 p.m. the story. At 1 p.m., so Meredith arrives at Blood Mountain with she and her dog, Ella. And when I saw it on ID, Ella was a beautiful black shepherd. She was not afraid of taking care of herself. And when she gets on the hike, when she gets on the trail, she actually passes two people walking and then passes this other guy. And she gets him. It's this Gary. I'm just going through the timeline, so I make sure I get all the facts in. Gary actually attacks Meredith, but not without a fight. She uses her self-defense techniques and, does kind of get away from him. The people who actually passed her, who had not seen him, did say that you could see that they thought that they heard something, somebody struggling, but it sounded more like an animal. So at 2:30 p.m., this is when he's attacking her, and she's putting up a big fight. This girl's not gonna go down without a fight. Approximately 6:30 p.m., this guy, Gary Hilton, he leaves the Blood Mountain approach trail parking lot. The Blood Mountain approach trail parking lot with Meredith Emerson and Ella in his van, or 6 o'clock. When he leaves with her in the van at 7 o'clock, he attempts to withdraw money using Meredith's ATM card. So that's what she's thinking. She's thinking, okay, he just wants to, my money. This is in Blairsville, Georgia. She gives him the wrong access code. So 9 o'clock p.m., Gary Hilton attempts to, again, withdraw money from Meredith's bank account. This time at the Bank of America in Gainesville, Georgia. So they are driving around in his van. Again, the wrong access code is given. January 2nd, he's had her for he's had her for over 24 hours, because it's now 8:02 p.m. on January 2nd, the next day, 2008. Gary Hilton again attempts to withdraw money using Emerson's ATM at Regions Bank in Canton, Georgia. And again, Meredith gives him the wrong access code. Now, the third day at 4:35 on January 3rd, 2008, Gary Hilton calls a former employer, John Tabor, and requests money. January 4th, 2008, early afternoon, Meredith is murdered in Dawson Forest. But here's the thing. At 4 p.m. on January 4th, 2008, her is recovered at the Kroger in Cummings, Georgia. At 4:41 p.m., Gary Hilton calls Sean Stewart requesting money. Approximately 6:45, Meredith's identification and other evidence are recovered from a dumpster at the Quick Trip in Cummings. And then at 8 p.m., he is arrested January 6th in Metro Atlanta. January 7, 2008, at 4 p.m., Gary discloses the location of the body of Meredith. At 7 p.m., the body of Meredith is recovered from Dawson Forest. This is January 7th. January 31st, 2008. 2 p.m., Gary Hilton is sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Meredith. She had felt safe before there. She had hiked that many times, her dad said. It's not just that he killed her. It's that he took her around for 3 days. Trying to get money out of different banks. He's also a suspect in 2 Florida and North Carolina. 1 in Florida and 1 in North Carolina. Victims both in national forests. Who was Meredith? I want to talk about the victim. So we've got her timeline set up. But who was Meredith? She was an all-American girl. She had a wonderful family who loved her, friends. Her death changed their lives, obviously, forever. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Meredith and Julia. But they lived in an apartment in a town called Buford, just north of Atlanta. It's a cute little town. I've been through it many times. Meredith, her boyfriend Steve, and several of their friends had, gone out partying that night before, December 2007. Meredith, in an effort to miss the post-party traffic, went home a little before midnight. She and Steve made plans to hang out on New Year's Day after she went hiking. She was 24 years old and had graduated from the University of Georgia in Athens. She was from a small town in Colorado about 2 hours from Denver called Longmont. She loved to hike and ski. She'd spend a lot of time, hiking. After she graduated, she started a career in marketing and worked not too far from her apartment. And here, she achieved a blue belt in judo and was good at it. So she did know how to protect a break. Hikers began to arrive in the parking lot of the Byron Heron Reese Memorial Trail. This trail exits the parking lot next to a kiosk that gives hikers information about the trail. The approach trail ascends Blood Mountain through a series of switchbacks and intersects with the Appalachian Trail. After several miles, it is probably the most popular trail hiked in that part of Georgia. Actually, it says in Georgia, period. So, like I said, there are a lot of different ways that she could have gone. And starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon may have put her a little bit too late, kind of out of the rush. And maybe that's what she wanted. Maybe she wanted the peace and quiet and not so many people, which I also enjoy. But you do run the risk that you're going to be in danger because there's not going to be as many people around. So Steve had talked with his girlfriend. So Steve, her boyfriend, had talked to Meredith on the phone at about 11 a.m. She had just gotten up and needed to take Ella for a walk. They had planned to spend New Year's Day together, but he had been terse and short with her on the phone, which obviously he regrets. Meredith wrote a note to her roommate, Julia, going hiking, took Ella, hope you had fun. It was not unusual for Meredith to go hiking, and Julia, assumed she and Steve were together. So she doesn't know, her roommate doesn't know at this point that that she is fired. Bill Clausen arrived at the approach trail. He encountered several hikers on his way up the mountain, and this is who I was talking about. He did interact with Meredith Emerson. Arrived in the parking lot of the approach trail with Ella just afternoon, and she was thinking it was going to be a good day. Mr. Bill Clausen saw Meredith on his bike and described her as wearing a lavender zippered jacket and black exercise pants. So she was prepared to walk, go up the trail. On his way back down, though, Clausen saw an individual walking with Meredith and Ella. He noticed a switchback that the trail had been disturbed on the slope of the hill. This was a violation of trail protocol. Okay, did not know this. As it damages the environment. Okay, so she went off trail, and he noticed that there was like a disturbance. So there had been something going on there. I mean, as he thinks back. No, she was seen with this individual. So, noticing the violation, because it damages the environment near the trail, he then saw a man carrying a bag with 2 water bottles, doggy treats, a silver hair barrette, sunglasses, and a police baton. Man later identified as Seth Blankenship said he had found them on the ground just off the trail. Clausen continued his descent, and at one point he stopped to catch his breath and caught movement out of the corner of his eye. The same man had been seen walking with Meredith earlier was watching him. He was making an effort not to be. Clausen talked to Seth Blankenship about what the items Blankenship found and the strange man seen with Meredith. Blankenship mentioned that when he had first seen this man, he had been wearing the police baton. Clausen decided to turn the items into a small hiking store just up the road. They couldn't have even imagined what was going to take place. At about 1 o'clock that afternoon, Steve, her boyfriend, he calls Meredith to apologize for how he had spoken to her on the phone. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. His call went straight to voicemail. By late in the afternoon, the weather had changed. A cold front was approaching, and the temperature dropped at dusk. It began to snow, and the winds picked up. So now, their family's going to be really worried, because why would she still be up on the mountain when it's snowing? It began to snow, and by midnight on Blood Mountain, there was a little bit of snow on the ground, and the temperatures had dropped below 0. That snow was accumulating. On the morning of January 2nd, Julia realized Meredith had not come home. So Meredith had not come home. January 2nd. So this is very upsetting to her, I'm sure. So she's notifying Meredith's parents. I'm just looking at my notes right here. Julia went home and searched through the apartment, any clues as to where she had been. And she found the places that highlighted in various, like where she could have hiked. She had found a map that highlighted places that she could have hiked. They drive up to the mountain. Temperature had dropped, and it definitely was snowing in single digits, so it's cold. And remember, she just has on a jacket and some workout pants. Julia and her friends arrive at the approach trail late in the afternoon. She immediately discovers Meredith's car in the parking lot. So it was Julia who discovered her car in the parking lot, and they all rushed up the trail looking for Meredith. Having no luck locating her, they called law enforcement and emergency services, who were familiar with the trail, as they had looked for overdue hikers in the past. So plans were made for a search effort. However, as we know by the timeline, she wasn't, unfortunately, in the forest. They were driving driving around, and he was trying to get money from her. The discovery of Meredith's belongings on the approach trail, and they were very puzzling. Why would she leave her water bottle and Ella's dog treats? But the discovery of the police baton was extremely concerning. Although these can be easily obtained by civilians, it is rare to see them on trails. Pepper spray, maybe, but what is essentially an extendable lead pipe had to be a first for them to find. So they're driving to the office the next morning. They hear the news report, this detective does, and she contacts her agents and instructs them to meet her at the Clay Bridge with her strategy now. At 8:30 a.m., all the agents had arrived and were prepared as best they could be to begin the investigation. A decision had been made to close the Blood Mountain Trail down, but the problem was that's not where she was. You know, like, ugh. They were so close. I guess they kept missing her, and the ID special was saying that, you know, they really were close. They get to the park at 10 a.m. They meet with the local sheriff's office. They find out what's going on as far as, you know, what she had left behind, her water bottle and her dog. The investigators that were on the case had reported that they had not seen any activity on the trail at all. They contacted Verizon Wireless pertaining to her cell phone records. They confirmed that the last telephone call that she actually made was to her boyfriend on January 1st, 2008 at approximately 11 a.m. That was the last call. The last telephone call to her phone was at 2:40. According to Verizon, Emerson's phone had been cut off between those two times and remained off indefinitely. At noon, the Atlanta News crew were live on the location. The reports included photographs of Meredith and the basic information about her, as well as, you know, their online tip number, where they asked for anybody with any information who had been to the summit, who had been to the trail, had seen Meredith, so to help them kind of navigate. At 2:09, Jesse Maddox receives a call from a person who stated he thought he knew the man described being on the trail with Meredith. The caller, John Tabor, said he had at one time employed a man named Gary Michael Hilton. So here he's providing the name. Now they just have to find him. He had known Hilton for approximately 10 years and recognized his physical description from the noon press release. Also had his dog with him. He gave the police a description of Hilton's dog as well. He gave Jesse information about Hilton's 2001 Chevrolet Astro van and provided the tag number. According to Tabor, Hilton frequently traveled to Blood Mountain and other state and national parks to camp and hike. Before ending the call, he supplied Jesse which is the investigator, with Hilton's identifying information, date of birth, social security number, etc. By 2:30, they put all this on the television. A photograph of Gary requested anybody who knew him or had known him to call the tip line. So later that afternoon, Meredith's parents, Susan and Dave, they arrived at Bogle State Park. They got him a cabin near their commanding center. They try not to disclose details of the information to the friends or family or media. It's not that we believe information will be leaked with bad intent. However, it's important that any strategies that they have at the time does not interfere with what they're doing. At 6:30, Jesse Maddox wanted to clarify some information he had received from John Tabor, Hilton's former employee. Jesse called him and learned that at about 4:30 that afternoon, Hilton had called and asked Tabor for money. The first call was placed from a telephone number, 770, da-da-da. But because of the bad connection, a second call was placed at 4:40 from a telephone number. They gave him another number. Hilton stated that he had gotten his life in order and wanted to come back to work. He would need about $700 to get his driver's license and tags renewed. He asked that a check be left at the business in Atlanta so he could pick it up. But this ends up being a major setback for the investigation because of the lag time between the conversation at 4:40 p.m. and the 6:30 p.m. call from Jesse. Tabor later would say that following the phone call with Hilton, he had gone into a business meeting and he had known Hilton had a hostage. He would have called them, so he had not known that he had a hostage. There was never a moment during a single media release that did not mention Meredith Emerson. One of the telephone numbers Hilton used was determined to be from a huddle house, which is like a pancake house, located at 35 Foothills Parkway, Marble Hill, Georgia, 60. Remember I said they were driving around a lot. 60 miles southwest of Blood Mountain. And there was another payphone next door to the huddle house. Next to it. At 9:15 p.m., they arrived at the huddle house in Marble Hill. The police did. The investigator. This was only a few miles from the cabin, and I knew the area well, the investigator says. Of the huddle house had remembered seeing Gary Hilton come in to have a cup of coffee. He had been wearing a fur-lined flap hat, a green jacket, and cargo pants. He has to make a phone call from the house phone on the counter. According to the cook, the phone call had lasted a couple of minutes. A store next to the huddle house had a payphone, the manager stated. She had seen a white Chevrolet Astra van parked outside the store that afternoon. The number was confirmed to be the first one that had called John Tabor. So that Gary had used originally, it was confirmed that that was the number. He was there. So they're, like I was saying earlier, they're right on their trail. The DeKalb Police Department SWAT team was asked to watch Tabor's business in Atlanta, and if Hilton showed up, they were told to grab him and immediately search for his van for Meredith. But he never showed up. As darkness fell at the state park, the Vogel State Park, where they were all the volunteers, information was kind of coming in bits and pieces. It was not good because the longer something goes on, the more that can happen. Not usually good. Park rangers actually say they remember coming upon Gary at various locations in the National Forest and describe his bizarre and at times confrontational behavior. So even though he was a hiker, why would you be so confrontational? Why would you have such strange behavior? So this investigator says she's worried sick about Meredith because she, in her gut is saying the longer we wait, the more is going to happen. She was also worried that she might have been injured during an accident or attack. She ran through almost every scenario that night in her mind, and none of them were good. Interviews with witnesses who saw Meredith on the trail New Year's Day and interacted. I mean, they had, they knew he was 60 miles. That he had to have her in that vehicle at the time. I mean, that's what I would be thinking. Gary Hilton was born November 22nd, 1946. His father, so this is about the murder. His father was a medical corps of the United States Army. When his parents divorced, he and his mother moved to Florida. At 8 years old, his mother sent him to a boys' club where he did well. His mother remarried when Hilton was just 9, and he and his mother and his stepfather would travel the country looking for work, so not a very stable environment. His teachers would routinely tell his mother how well he was doing in school, and many of them felt he should be moved up a grade. Sure. However, tensions grew between Hilton and his stepfather, and when he was 14, they got into an argument, and Hilton was upset about how his mother was being treated. He had borrowed a gun from a friend, and during the argument, his father said, "Just shoot me." Hilton's stepfather survived the gunshot wound because Hilton did shoot him. And Hilton was arrested back when he was only 14 years old, so he did not have a problem shooting somebody. Hilton entered the U.S. Army at the age of 17, where he volunteered to become a paratrooper and later attended airborne school. I mean, he could have had a great life. I don't know what, you never really know why somebody. He later told his mother he was a Green Beret, but his military records do not reflect that. So now he's lying about his achievements, so he felt, I guess, like he didn't achieve enough for her. That is my guess. That's just my speculation. He was married a couple times, but both of them failed. He was arrested for minor offenses, theft and simple battery, and never served any lengthy time in jail. He had no remorse for what he did. As the detective would say, he said as she interviewed him, he just had the makings, or had the sociopathic mind of a serial killer. No remorse, just the way he was. She said it was really bizarre. So 11 a.m. at the investigator. An investigator with the Ducktown, Tennessee Sheriff's Office came to their investigative command post and asked if we were aware of an active investigation in North Carolina concerning the murder of an elderly female and the disappearance of her husband near a hiking trail. And also, there was another one in Florida regarding the murder of a woman in a national forest down there. As a result of this information, we learned the following. On October 21st, 2007, John and Irene, both in their 80s, had decided to go for a day hike in the Pishka National Forest. John is what is called a thorough hiker, meaning that he had hiked the entire distance of the Appalachian Trail. They parked their car on a forest service road that day to begin their hike. Later, a 911 call was attempted from their phone, but the call had been dropped because of a weak signal. So Irene's sister is in the habit of calling often, and the following day, they really started to worry when they found the elderly couple's car still there. And here's his MO. At 7:35 on October 22nd. And this is in 2007, so not too long before this case we're talking about, that the couple had been forced to take out $300 out of the bank account. So less than 2 months later, on December 1st, Cheryl Hodges. So now this is December 1st, 2007, a month basically from the time of Meredith's disappearance. Cheryl Hodges Dunlap, 46, disappeared in the Appalachian National Forest near Tallahassee, Florida. She was a nurse and a mother of 2 grown children. She also taught Sunday school, and she failed to arrive to class the next day. Her friends became concerned. On December 3rd, when she did not show up for work, she was definitely reported missing. And that's where they found her car, to the entrance. National Forest, same thing. I mean, very much the same MO. ATM card had been used at several local banks. Security footage showed a man wearing gloves, glasses, and what appeared to be a homemade mask. Officers staked out the banks with no luck. On December 8th, almost 200 people searched the wooded area close to where her car had been found, and again with no luck. On December 15th, witnesses reported seeing buzzards circling in the forest. Officers determined through DNA analysis that it was the body of Cheryl Dunlap. Her head and hands were missing. A day later, witnesses reported seeing Gary Hilton camping on a big trail in the forest of Joe Thomas Road. So, on December 28th, a Forest Service ranger encountered Hilton in the Osceola National Forest adjacent to the Apalachicola National Forest. He was issued a citation for camping in an unauthorized area and driving close to the road. He was instructed to leave the camping grounds. So, I mean, they are so close. When he had attempted to make a withdrawal at the Bank of America in Gainesville, Georgia, 60 miles south of the Blood Mountain Trail, on January 2nd, 2008, a month after this other woman was killed, this 46-year-old mother of 2 grown children, another attempt was made at the Regions Bank in Canton, Georgia, 80 miles southwest of the trail. So they're heading southwest. Meredith was still alive then, so they were getting so close. The investigator said, "I was horrified. She had been doing all she could to stall, giving Hilton the wrong PIN number in the hope that we would catch up. She must have realized he would have no more use for her if she gave him the correct access code." She was so smart. At about 4 o'clock that afternoon, a call came up to the tip line from a woman who said she had been following the news coverage and thought she had just seen Meredith's dog Ella, and that was at the Kroger grocery store. So I mean, this is so upsetting because he literally leaves her dog tied up at a grocery store. She's able to catch the dog in the parking lot and asked what to do. At 6:05, it was confirmed using identification chip that that was Meredith's dog, Ella. Now we are getting somewhere. Could Meredith be close by too? But as soon as the call about Ella had come, the area was flooded with police officers. No sign of Gary anywhere. He was gone. At 6:10, only 5 minutes after we knew we had Ella, Sean Stewart called the tip line and reported the following. She had known Gary Hilton for about 20 to 30 years and had just received a call from him asking for money. She told him, "Don't you know the world is looking for you?" He hung up. She gave us the number which she had appeared on her caller ID. This was quickly determined was a payphone at a quick trip service station across the street from the Kroger Ella had walked into. Like I said, they are on, minutes from saving this woman's life. As you might imagine, there were soon a number of patrol cars. Police at the Kroger were interviewed. It was Gary Hilton who used the payphone. So just shortly before 8 p.m., a call was placed to the cab 911 center reporting a person at a car wash cleaning out a white van. So now we are literally only 2 hours later. So close. The call. So he's calling 911 at the cab car wash at 8 o'clock p.m. and said he's washing out the van. The caller thought it was the person they had been looking for. In the disappearance of the hiker on Blood Mountain, the 911 operator told him she was dispatched units to the location. The caller said, "I can grab him for you if you want me to." Just after that, he reported police officers had arrived and the person was in custody. Oh gosh. Back at the Quick Trip crime scene, process continued. Dumpster. Inside were things. Things that they hoped they wouldn't find. In a white garbage bag was a thick black leather woman's wallet containing Meredith Emerson's driver's license. Several other pieces of paperwork bearing her name were found throughout the bag as well. A second white garbage bag revealed a fleece pullover covered with dirt, hair, and vegetation debris. On the fleece was a red substance found out to be blood. It was her pullover. There was blood on a ticket for driving too close to the road. Remember that warning ticket? Now it was after midnight, and they didn't have Meredith. They had to go tell her parents what they had found. I mean, they knew at this point that there was probably a 99.9% chance that she was not alive. All her stuff was in. Her license, her wallet, everything was found. The blood, everything. A few minutes later, we were joined by crime scene specialists. And at 9 a.m., the waiting member of the media who had learned of Hilton's arrest the night before needed an update. We continued to ask them. Newscasters, since they now had Hilton, they could start asking him questions. So Ella was reunited at the Vogel Park with Meredith's parents. So January 6th, one more day spent looking for her. At about 10 o'clock, they get a call from the prosecutor confirming they were going to walk and talk to him later that morning. They still had no leads to where Meredith's body was. Meanwhile, Bobby McAlloy held a briefing in Dawson Forest with the additional search teams as they began to search in the area near the Etowah River. Searchers found duct tape, cellophane wrappings along riverbank. The duct tape appeared to be in good condition, which led Bobby to conclude it had only been there a short period of time. Helicopters arrived to help with the search, and Bobby assigned a ranger from the Department of National Resources as the spotter. The ranger, William Drecker, had worked with DNR many years and was probably more familiar with Dawson Forest than anyone. If Meredith was there, he would find her. Where is Meredith? Gary. Very much, this is what the prosecutor said, I am very much in favor of the death penalty, and I will go after it. But let's do this instead of going after the death penalty for closure for Meredith's parents and family and friends. Why don't you tell us where she is? So Hilton would not do it. He would not do it. He said, I'll sleep on it. She said, yeah, you sleep on it. Wow. Oh, they have this evidence. Basically with the duct tape and the cellophane, approximately, where he dumped it. That doesn't mean that she was there, but she had to have been fairly close to there. FBI GBI agents from Asheville, North Carolina. They start talking about the other murders because they're now trying to scare Gary into telling him. So basically they're saying, look, we know you killed 3 or 4 other people. You're probably gonna die. Trying to scare him. I mean, literally, he killed them, cooled off for a minute or 2, killed another. I mean, he would have kept killing people. I don't know what, at that point in his life, why he would start killing people. And it didn't matter how old or how young. This is this guy saying that he saw this man, this white male, and a dog standing next to a white van, which was parked about 300 yards away from the woods. It was the same man he had seen in a photograph on the news. So he had seen Hilton on the news, so he calls the police. And Bobby McEwley continued to lead search teams in Dawson Forest, and additional helicopter support had been requested. There was a lot of activity. My guess was ready to talk because he figured, okay, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, I'm pretty much screwed. So he informed the group of this development that he would, if they agreed to formally take the death penalty off the table, he would talk. Before they left the office, I thought about Meredith's parents and the telephone call they would get from me later about her roommate Julia and all of Julia's friends. The drive through the windy mountain road across the Blood Mountain to the Union County Jail took almost an hour. The GBI director was with me. Me meaning the investigator. We expected Hilton to be cooperative and non-combative. Present in the room would be Hilton and his lawyer, Clay, and myself, the investigator. At 4:55 p.m., Clay activated his digital recorder and we began the interview. So she's like, look, just tell me. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna show you right here. Okay, alright. It's Dawson's Forest, where they are looking currently. So the investigator says, Dawson's Forest, okay, I'm familiar with that area. Hilton said, oh good, it's a nice place, isn't it? In the city of Atlanta track. Hilton says, make a right on Dawson Forest Road, go to the Shoal Creek Road, which becomes dirt. There is several gated roads off to the west side. They're gated and the gates are closed, and they are designed as trails. They're heavily used equestrian trails. I believe it is the first road to the left. So he's describing, apparently, he says, make sure you're on the right road. Immediately to the north of that road on either side of the Shoal Creek is a sign that says no bicycles beyond this point. And she says, how far down is the road? Go down the road about 50 yards and it's going to be off the south side of the left side of the road. The body will be. The investigator says, okay. So Hilton says a landmark for that would be the trail is double blazed, where 2 trails come together. One is lavender and the other one is gray. So Hilton says, okay, the body will be approximately 40 yards or 120 feet. It is covered by leaves and brush. Here says, you said the body is down there on the left of the road under some leaves and brush. If I've got to help you, I'm going to help you. She says, we're going to take you down there. So another investigator budges in and says, is that the only portion of the body that's missing? And Hilton says, yes, I'm sure these cases are emotionally wrenching, but that's your damn job. And he laughs. This is what the killer says to the investigators. So as she walks out of the interview room, the memories of that, him saying that and laughing, remain in her mind. can somebody be that way? That's what I mean, really, that's what I want to know. How can somebody be so incensed? They were so close when they did push back the leaves. And there she was. I mean, any death, of course, is a tragedy, but the fact that they were so close and she had them, she had him stalled. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this account of Meredith Emerson, but have a good evening, good night, or good morning. I will talk to you all later. I just wanted to thank everybody for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and I hope to, be just as much support to other ASMR channels, true crime and otherwise. Just thank you to Mystic ASMR for the shout out. I really appreciate that. Everybody, if you have not gone on to Mystic ASMR, you've got to try her. She has a beautiful voice, great whisper, and of course E-Whispers, thank you so much for the shout out. And I just wanted to mention that because when I heard about those videos, I was like, oh, proper tears in my eyes. So I just wanted to say thank you. We're some of the smaller ASMR artists, so true crimers and just regular ASMR, we all three of us do kind of ASMR regular, and we have true crime, hauls, makeup hauls, and things like that, and tingles. And so, to people, thank you so much. And to me, so if you have not gone to their channels, it's E-Whispers and Mystic ASMR. They both have really interesting videos, excellent whispers. I highly recommend them. I just love all ASMR artists. So thank you, Mark, for Dreamscapes Sleep Music. If you want to check his art and his music out, is phenomenal. So thank you for always being supportive, all three of you. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. All of my subscribers, please subscribe if you have not, and comment. If you comment, it really helps out the channel, and I need that right now to, kind of get around YouTube's algorithm. I would really, really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe would be great. It's free, so I just wanted to say thank you for being such a caring community. You have helped me through